My guest today is Chad Novak. Chad is passionate about the evolution of consciousness on this planet. His services are transformational breathwork and ontological coaching. His website is soulfulbreath.com. In today's episode, Chad shows up raw and vulnerable, sharing openly about his journey and offering insights and hope for those who desire to align with their authentic self. I hope you enjoy this enriching conversation. Welcome, Chad, longtime friend.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I've missed our conversations.
Yeah,
I've missed the um, openness and willingness that you have to be vulnerable and to um, go deeper into conversation and to converse about worldly events. And there's so much richness in the conversations we've had. And um, so welcome. And I'm so grateful that you've decided to do this today.
absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. I consider you a friend, a mentor, someone who's uh yeah, you've been a big influence in my unfolding, and I'm very grateful to call you a friend and mentor and just someone who I know that it's a connection that will continue on, and I'm grateful for that. So
Yeah.
it
Would
means a
you
lot.
like to just take a couple minutes in your memory of how we met and where you were at that time and how your life unfolded? Because I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
I share all the time. Oh, my friend Chad, oh my gosh, what he's accomplished.
yeah. Um, so we met, I believe it was in McHenry County, right? It was at
Mhm.
the, it was it a meetup? I think it was a meetup.
Yeah.
And what was
It
the meet?
might have been a meetup about the authentic self. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I would have to go back and look at that, but it might have been, but it was definitely spiritual related.
Yep. And I forgot the gal whose business it was. But I do remember that I was a sales manager at a roofing company, and I had just kind of got that up and running in Chicago, and I was going through yeah, I was going through a lot internally. I had just moved back to Chicago from Bakersfield, California, and reopened a roofing company with some old roofing buddies from Colorado. And I'm like, this is going to be it. I'm going to make millions of dollars, and I'm going to retire in 10 years. Well, I got here, and little did I know that a lot changed when I was in Bakersfield. I think Bakersfield was a pivot point for me in regards to just really journeying in, just going inside and just kind of asking, like, big questions of, why are we here? What are we doing here? Like, just all these different, like, existential questions that were coming up for me. So when I met you, um I was working for this roofing company, and I really was having a hard time because I just felt this pull that this was not what I was supposed to be doing. This is not what I'm supposed to be doing here. And I felt it for quite a while. It took me about 7 months to quit that job, just based off of people trying to keep me in the job. My wife mentioned that maybe I should take some medicine to help kind of corral me back into the status quo.
Mm.
That didn't feel the greatest internally, but I mean, it culminated when I knew that something was that needed to change, was when I had suicidal thoughts. I was, sat down with my wife at the dinner table with my 18-month-old baby, my oldest daughter at the time, and I was just started crying, and I was just like, I don't know how else to explain this to you. I can't keep doing this anymore, and it was less about the job. I mean, this was like there was something inside of me that was much deeper than like just doing a job. I mean, I feel I'm a pretty hardworking person, so doing the job wasn't the problem. And so having that conversation with her at the dinner table uh, was a big point. And then, I eventually, through our talks too, I think, I shared quite a bit what I was feeling in those meetup groups that kind of started talking about just stepping into your authentic self and just embodying who you really are. And I think that was the beginning of my journey, and this was, what was this, 2014. So about 10 years ago. Um, and I ended up, quitting my job not too long after meeting you, I believe. And I became a stay-at-home dad for my one daughter at the time. And now I currently have four daughters and live in Wisconsin. And yeah, I'm just working actually right now just to get my coaching and breathwork business up and going and to share it with people. So, and that's kind of, me quitting that job allowed me to go down all these different modalities. I'm certified in breath work, ontological coaching, yoga, spiritual facilitating. So I've gained a lot of gifts and wisdoms along the way, along with just living life.
While you were doing all your studies, you were also doing your own inner work.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, it was all right. And then, being a stay-at-home parent of four little girls has been an initiation, to say the least.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
yeah, it's a journey, because some days I knock it out of the park and some days I do not knock it out of the
Sure.
park.
Of course. Of course.
I'm
Yeah.
learning I'm learning a lot from them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I remember very, very clearly the meeting in McHenry County. And it was a fairly small group, but it's to me, this is my memory. And I've had this happen, a handful of times. Um, However many people were in that circle, and I think this is like a soul connection thing. It was like there was a spotlight on you.
oh,
Yeah, yeah. It's not something that could be explained easily, but there was a connection before we even started sharing one-on-one.
sure.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
I feel, I mean, if I look back at it, from all of our conversations and meeting up over the years and connecting, it's always just been very easy. And sometimes we hit and connect and sometimes we don't, but it's never been like I don't really have any expectations from you or of you. And I feel the same way that you towards me, and
Right.
that allows me to be me, which I'm grateful for.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
So, something you shared that really got my attention and I absolutely loved it. You did a video, people can find it on YouTube under Soulful Breath,
yep, soulful breath. Yep.
Chad Novak. And the title of that audio video on YouTube is Emerge into Your Authentic Self. And so much of what you shared in that, I so related to on a personal level and just overall, excuse me. So I thought maybe today we could delve deeper into that. Emerge into your authentic self. So I think one of the first questions I'd like to ask is, what do you mean by the authentic self, or specifically your true authentic self?
Yeah. What I believe, or at least what I've learned along my path, is um it's the essence of who we are. So it's the soul, it's the part of us I feel that's still tied to God, source consciousness. So it's the part of us that is in the background, that's always present, always there. And so waiting really actually to to be revealed, I feel like to oneself. I feel like um it's always there and we know that it's there, but with so much noise in the world and distraction and conditioning and programming and families that we don't hear it or listen to it. And I just feel that we're at a time in the world where that voice is getting louder and louder, and I call it the voice of God, the voice of soul, the voice of spirit. That's calling us, back home basically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wants to, wants to show us something, about how to live in a particular way that's different than the way we live now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it seems that the challenges that come with that is almost choices made on a daily basis. Am I speaking from a false self in the sense, am I trying to control or manipulate an outcome?
Yep.
Because one thing I know for sure about the authentic, true authentic self, it doesn't want to control or manipulate. And that's how, for me, I can tell, where am I coming from?
Yep.
Um, but it shows up daily. It shows up daily, probably breath to breath.
Yep. And I think that that's one of the things um that I'm feeling like to share with people and to work with people too is to express that, like, it can be an arduous task to come back home to your authentic self, but the more and more that we orient ourselves into like living from that place of soul and authentic self and are committed to that, that it becomes second nature. And we're constantly, it's not about perfection, it's about progress and just evolving, right? So we're constantly coming back to that place inside of ourselves and asking, is this alignment with who I really am, or is this
Mhm.
an old program running inside of me? And
Mhm.
I think it takes about, time to get to a place of being able to discern that, because so many people in the world are on autopilot. The
Mhm.
world is designed to keep people on autopilot. And
So it's nobody's fault.
no, I don't think it's anybody's fault.
Mhm.
I don't think it's anybody's fault at all. I mean, I think, like, put this, for example, I used to think about, like, whenever I would see those commercials for like starving children in Africa, I'd be like, someone who didn't have much money growing up, I was like, I always pondered about those commercials because it's like, I don't have much money, like, so I always thought, like, by just giving money to something, like, I don't know how much that is really changing the thing, you
Right.
know.
Yeah.
The reason I'm sharing that is because as I've gotten older, in order for us to really change the world, we need to change us. We need to
That's
change
it.
how we perceive the world, how we show up in the world, and align with our authentic selves. And and the more and more people that do that, they won't need commercials for people starving in Africa, because eventually, over time, it will all resolve itself out, with people awakening. Like, we're all connecting up right now. I feel like we're syncing up at a time right now where people are starting to really tune in with each other's energies and collaborate, kind of like this, and share and speak about, like, you know things that are true to you, but that are also true for all of us, really, I feel like.
Yeah. And for myself, I can say it's been a lifetime commitment. It really has been a commitment to um, honoring what I would call my soul, which I would also call that my true authentic self. It's been a lifetime commitment to that. And that doesn't mean in any way, shape, or form that my life has been easy because when you are coming from the place of soul, true authentic self, that has, um, I would say, values for lack of a better word, that align with that, that don't necessarily align with what our world shows that it values. And
Right.
so there's a constant, or there has been throughout my life, a constant, how do I show up in the world without sacrificing what I know to be true for me?
Yep.
And the only
That's
way that's continued is through that commitment, through that commitment. Otherwise, I would have lost a connection to my soul, to my authentic self. I would have lost it without that commitment. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I know that that's accurate and true for me.
no, I think that that's what I'm waking up to, right? I feel like I feel like I half-heartedly committed for a long time. You know, there's a difference between committing like intellectually and committing from the soul. There's just a big
Mhm.
difference.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, you get to a certain point where um, you know, it's not in the mind. The mind, it's not for the mind to figure out. It's a sense of rightness that comes from deep inside of you that's beyond the mind. And and to get to that place of 100% all in committal has taken me 10 years. 10 years of like, I mean, I'm looking at my desk right now and I got writings and journals and all these different things of just unfolding and processing and integrating. And, you know,
Mm.
10 years to get to this point for me of like, it's time. You know, it's time. And I have had some things happen in my external reality and my relationships that have like really sped that up. And uh I mean, there's there's no, I mean, it's a sign, you know, for me at least. For me, it's time for me, you know. And yeah, it's unleashing something inside of me to want to share with people and to help guide people along that journey too, because um yeah, it can be a lonely journey, right? Especially if you don't have, if you know, if you don't have people like Irma to talk to, you know, to help, seriously help navigate and, you know, certain life rafts. I mean, I have several, not several, but I mean, maybe a handful of people like you that I've met, men and women who are
Mhm.
all tend to be typically older than me, um, who have been very, very helpful in my unfolding.
Mhm.
You know, and sharing their wisdom and knowledge and are on the same path as I am, just a little bit older in age, I guess. But
Mhm.
um, yeah, like you said, I feel like you are someone who I would love to emulate, right? As far as just how you show up, just the energy that you present, the way I feel after talking with you. You know, it's never, you know, leaving with a sense of lightness and a sense of rightness and in a way of like, to me it reminds me of like what all communication should be like, really.
I know.
You know, not like free of conflict, free of like ego, free of agendas, free of
Yep.
outcomes, free of just, you know,
Yep. I
I
do.
don't I'm not using you for anything or need you to be anything either.
Yep.
You know, I'm here with you and that feels right. And I think those are the kinds of relationships that people are yearning for.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think you start to find those relationships when you show up as your authentic self.
absolutely,
Hmm.
absolutely. I feel, you know, I feel like I'm in the infancy stages. I feel like I've been pretty authentic, but like, I would say I'm kind of in a dark night of the soul kind of experience at the moment. So,
Mm,
um,
mm.
with that,
If you have a chance, Chad, and if I can find it, I'm going to send this to you, and I may cut this out of our video. I'm not sure. There's a talk. Are you familiar with Jim Finley?
I am not.
Okay. He's a Franciscan priest. He's kind of
Okay.
related to, connected with Richard Rohr.
Okay. I've heard of
Both of
that.
them are connected to Thomas Merton, sorry.
Okay. And that's
Um,
who wrote The Dark Night of the Soul, isn't he? Isn't that the guy who wrote that book?
yes, yes. I believe so. Thomas Merton, you mean?
Yeah, yep,
Yeah.
yep,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. But there's a talk that I heard once by Jim Finley about the dark night of the soul that helped me see it in a totally different perspective. It was one of those talks and one of those moments that was life-changing. So if I can find that, I'm going to send that to you.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
might be
yeah,
helpful at this time.
yeah. That'd
Yeah.
be great. That'd be
Yeah.
great. So I feel like, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. And I feel, I feel like, right, we're all micros in the macros. So I think when one person's feeling something, so are many other people
Mhm.
feeling very similar things.
Mhm.
And I think it's good to share and articulate what those things are so we can help each other and
Yeah.
and and walk with each other on this path.
Yeah. So would you say, Chad, that would you connect the definition or the understanding of integrity with soul and true authentic self?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I feel
Mhm.
like, yeah, I would say that they're synonymous. I feel like the soul doesn't have an agenda, you know. And I feel that that is like to get to that place. I mean, that's kind of a scary place if you think about it, because I mean, we're talking about a death of the ego, right? A death of the small I, and um, yeah, I mean, to me, when I hear integrity and soul, I mean, that's like that feels in alignment for sure.
Yeah, because to me, integrity means true. It means, what's true. It means integral. It can be trusted. It's of integrity. To me, that just resonates. It just really is in alignment. So, and that's another thing, another tool I use for myself, showing up in life. Am I in my integrity?
Yeah, I
And
like to say,
and a lot of times I'm not. I'm gonna
yeah,
be
yeah,
honest. A
yeah,
lot of
absolutely.
times I'm not.
I like to say the truth lands. So when we're speaking from our soul and from our truth, um, part of that's going to land with another soul.
That's true. It cuts through.
It comes in, and so even though it might get like intellectualized or rationalized or justified or shot down by the mind, I think when we're speaking truth, it lands for other people in a place inside of them that resonates with that truth. And
Yeah.
I feel it's a collective truth too. I feel like it's a truth of like, being spiritual beings in human physical forms.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So here's a question, and these are things that I ponder about. And how does one navigate their way through their life if the soul and the true authentic self is taking the forefront and the small self, the ego, kind of in the backseat, How does one do that? Navigate through this life when it seems like what the world calls success definitely takes the ego being in the forefront.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I feel that very question I'm struggling with right now in my life. Um, because being a stay-at-home dad, my wife has been the breadwinner and taking care of our family, and I'm very grateful for that. I have been because it's allowed me to explore myself, and do what I do. But yeah, there's a pull for me too to create resources and to become independent, and individuate, and kind of really be on my own in essence. And so, um, just navigating the world, I have plenty to offer, but like, it's not always recognized by people. It's not
Okay.
recognized by, following your soul is not money making, you know? Um,
Mhm.
and,
Well, it
and,
depends though, right? It depends. So take, for example, sorry for
no,
cutting
it's okay.
cutting you off. Take, for example, someone like Oprah Winfrey, who eventually moved into Super Soul Sunday, which is when she was making this shift into opening up to spirituality. And there was definitely success in that area, and it was definitely recognized. So what do you think that's dependent on? And I don't even like that word dependent, but it's
Um,
what I use.
well, like, so that I think that's, I mean, I might even have some blind spots around that. I feel like, what I'm finding for myself at the moment is, it is a tug of war between my mind and my soul in regards to putting myself out there and sharing with the world. It's like, what do I do? Do I create a YouTube channel? Do I do podcasts? Do I do this? But then I question, like, where are these coming from? I mean, is this really who I am, who I feel pulled to be, or am I trying to cultivate myself around what I think the world wants me to be or needs me to be? And
Mm.
I think that's a fine line. And I think, like, questioning that and finding out, like, um, what that avenue is for you. Like, it took me almost all day to make that video. The words for that video just came when I was up at like 3 or 4 in the morning. Like, it was very spontaneous, that whole process, right? It wasn't like a lot of, like, I had to do some, but like,
That's why it was so good.
I had to do some, but it wasn't like, I'm doing this for that. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And I guess, like, coming back to the open hand work that I'm a part of, I feel like that's what it teaches you, to come from the soul and to trust that everything will organize around that, um, as it needs to, and really just trusting. And that is, I mean, that is like, it's a pretty vulnerable, courageous, and beautiful place to be if you can sit in it
Yeah.
and really be with it and trust it. I've been back and forth in that space. I mean, because there's a lot of people out there, that are toting that they know exactly what's going on in the planet and what everyone else needs to do. Like, none of us know what the other person needs to do. In regards to, like, spiritual mainstream, and just like, there's just so
Yes.
much, like the world needs fucking more people just being real,
Yep. I agree with you.
trying to be selly and selling shit. The people who are trying to sell all this shit, I have no problem with making money and creating resources. I need to as well. I
Right.
mean, I have
Hmm.
children. Um, but, like, where do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line? Are you here of service for others, or are you here to, like, get that vacation house? I'm not saying the vacation house is wrong, but, like, to be truly in of service of others, I feel like it's not like you need to live like Jesus, but, like, um, yeah, I mean, I think it's a fine line. You can easily take advantage of people in the world if you wanted to,
Oh, yes, absolutely. And a lot of people do.
especially within the spiritual mainstream.
Yep.
A lot of people do, and a lot of people are filling up their coffers,
Yep.
claiming that they have it figured out, and that, this is the fastest way to aligning with your true self. And the thing is like, I feel like the world is full of smoking mirrors right now,
Yep.
especially in spiritual communities, because, um,
Yep.
I mean, you can see it, you can feel it. I mean, if you're tapped into your authentic self, you can just feel, like, you can feel it energetically,
Yep.
without calling people out or labeling them as bad or not knowing anything. But, like, I don't know, like, maybe this is the diplomat in me coming up and just being like, you know, there's a way to navigate this without, like, exploiting humanity and each other, you know.
Yes. I think there absolutely is. And, you know,
I kind of went off on a tangent
no,
there,
no,
but
no, because it's important, Chad. This is an important conversation because look at all the work and I would imagine finances that you put into kind of filling up your toolbox with what you can
Absolutely.
offer and how you can help people um, move towards something that you find of the highest value. So it seems like, again, with a lot of things, there's this challenge of how does one, from an authentic, true self, soul, essence place, promote themselves? Because
Right.
that seems so ego, especially doing it in a way that has a formula of success, which it probably does. But that way is it's always seems like there's this push pull thing because in order to promote oneself and get out there and kind of do what they want to do, give their services, um, it's almost like you have to enter the matrix, what I kind of call the matrix, or enter the mainstream, while what you're trying to help people with is not really that. So it's like it's this.
Yeah, that's a great point because it's a slippery slope because I feel like you can easily get sucked back into the ego driving the
Oh
boat,
yes.
you know, and and if you're good at it, like you can lose yourself in the identity of being,
Yep.
that person as a, breath worker, life coach,
Yeah.
yoga instructor, and you can get sucked up into that, especially if people are um, feeding that in a particular way. So I think there's a level of resonance. I mean, right? Like I like the word rightness. There's a sense of rightness when things click. So something
Mhm.
that that you're talking about is I actually hired a coach to help me get my breath work and coaching out there. And I worked with him for about a month, and he helped me tremendously. But I felt that I needed to kind of, go through some grieving and some things that I'm going through and kind of sit with that. So I didn't want to put the cart before the horse, right? I didn't want
Mm.
to, and he had really great ideas, but it was almost like when I went to share with him that I wanted to stop, he was kind of like taken back by it because he had all these great ideas for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But the thing is like I don't want people to have great ideas for me. I want these ideas to grow and out of me, to
Yep.
emerge. And I think that comes back to emerging as your authentic self is like, um, how do you, you know, uh, make room and create space for those things to grow out of you, you know? And I think, creating contacts and relationships, and just putting yourself out there, in an authentic way, whatever that is for you. And I get it. Like there's so many courses out there. And that's one of the things, I mean, that I want to share here is that you can get so overwhelmed with all the stuff out there,
Yes.
that people are sharing. And there's a lot of good stuff out there. And there's a lot of stuff that can be possibly misleading stuff out there. But really, I feel like, getting people to kind of like you were saying about how you show up in life, coming back to this internal compass and being like, at some point you have to stop seeking outside of yourself for what you already have,
That's true.
whatever that is, and
Mhm.
to start to really, um, embody it and allow for it to kind of move and come through you. And I think that that's can be a scary place, to be for a lot of people. uh I get it, like, like I said, I mean, my wife works and creates the resources for our family, so I have been very blessed, but I'm not naive to think that like things don't cost things and that it doesn't cost to like live life, because I know it does. But in order for us to emerge authentically with our career, our vocation and profession, um we just need, yeah, we have to really tune in. and have it come from us and not from someone else. And I guess when I'm sharing this with you, I'm really just sharing this with myself because I'm reminding myself that like I need to stop seeking other people for the answers, especially if they're not vibrating at the same frequency as me and they don't give a shit about authenticity like I do.
Yeah, because you can, possibly become successful, but if it's not connected to integrity, soul, true, authentic self, it's not going to have the same meaning.
100%.
Hmm.
I feel like it's easy. I think it can be very easy to go that way. I mean, people
Can
need
be.
help right now. People need
Hmm.
help right now. And so it can be easy to exploit people's vulnerabilities and our
Yes,
psyche.
that's true. And it's happening. There's a lot of people that are exploiting that.
Yep. And that's kind of, and that's kind of what I feel. And I don't know, even in just talking to you, I feel emerging with our vocation and what we want to share from a more rooted and grounded place is ideal during these times. And it's not gonna it may not be Super Soul Sunday, right? Like it may just be very like grassroots stuff wherever you are in your location. Um, you know,
That's true. Grassroots, that's very true. And Chad, I mean, I have a background and I know you do as well. If I wanted to, within a year's time, I could be so-called successful, so-called seen and known. I could
right.
make that happen. Is that would that be in alignment? The way to do that, the formula to do that, would that be in alignment with who and what I truly am? Probably not. And one of the keys for me, another tool for me is if I'm forcing something, it's not coming from that authentic true self.
Mhm.
Mm-mm. No, if something has to be forced into existence, that is not. I think you described it in a way when you were talking about the coach you had, and you yourself wanting it to kind of emerge from you rather than having someone tell you this is how you do it.
Yep, exactly.
And
I
that emerging from you is a flow. It's not forcing.
Yeah, I mean, Irma, I don't have the book down here, but I even bought this book, and maybe I'll look at it, but it's called The $100 Million Offer. And it's like this really, really thin book, but it's like this book about like making an offer that is so good that it's impossible for the other person to refuse,
Sure.
you
And those
know?
offers exist for sure.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. But I mean like, you know, yeah. It's hard to quantify, and sell unfoldment, you know,
Well,
really.
right, because you can only be it.
Yeah. I mean, I think, in talking to I feel like creating experiences feels right, creating experiences for people to have,
Yeah.
whether it's, through breath work or a retreat out in nature or meditation or just even talking and communication like this. I
Yeah.
feel like this is a healing experience just to be in this dialogue. So,
Hmm.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and just keeping it open for, yeah, like there's no finish line here. There really isn't.
No, no, there is not. And
You know?
that's part of the beauty of it. Hmm.
So I do enjoy being a perpetual student of life. I feel like you know, curiosity drives me to continually seek. Um, but I also feel like I'm getting to a point, Irma, where I feel myself wanting to seek less and less outside and more inside.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Um, and that's a big pivot point for me. That's a big change for me. You know, it's like I do love to read. I really, really do. But then I'm like, but am I reading because I feel like if I read this book, then I will dot dot dot, you know?
True. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so um
So
yeah,
here's a question I think that would be a good question for someone um wanting maybe to emerge into their true authentic self. I think a good question to ask oneself is, say if the authentic self, true authentic self, soul essence could speak. And it does. It does speak quietly, though, where the ego speaks very loudly. So if it could speak, or if we would allow it to whisper to us, and it would say, "Do you trust me? Do you trust me?" If the if you answer honestly, you're going to find out something about yourself.
yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I feel I feel like that's probably where I'm at the moment in my journey of dropping into that trust.
Yeah.
Really dropping into it because I do know yeah, I can feel the pressure from outside sources of like wanting, everyone has an idea of the way that your unfolding should be, right? And it always is like the way that they want it to be because it impacts them or affects them.
Right.
And I'm talking maybe more intimate relationships, but just even like family relationships too, like um siblings and children and even friends. But
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, I think that's part of continuing on the path of emerging into your authentic self is to continue to trust soul and spirit and keep coming back to that. Um, and I feel like that's where the unknown, the mystery, the alchemy happens. That's where it gets scary,
Yep. Yep. There's always that question. What will I choose? What will I choose?
right?
It's a choice.
Yeah,
We can go either way.
absolutely. And I feel maybe I am putting some pressure on myself, but like emerging back out into the world and going and just working a job to like feels awful inside,
Hmm.
for me. So I really um maybe I am putting a lot of pressure, but I really want to create resources through all of that I've learned already. So
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
and
It's very hard, Chad. You know, there's been times in my life when I look back, and I've done a lot of studies as well, and there's so much that I could offer and be requiring payment for.
mhm,
I haven't found that place that feels like that right place for me to mm, put a price tag on it.
sure.
And so when I reflect back on my life and I think of authenticity and integrity, some of my happiest times had nothing to do with teaching or helping another person become more authentic, or it had to do with times in my life where I was absolutely in alignment with my authenticity. And one of those times was working in a flower shop.
Mm,
I was so content.
Yeah, and
Was surrounded by things that had meaning, and I got to talk with people about things that had meaning to them when they, for a birthday, an anniversary, a death, and it was connection and color and life, and it was beautiful.
thank you for sharing that because that to me, like, yeah, that's helpful for me because I feel like um I feel that sometimes I almost want it so bad that internally that it's the very thing that's like resisting it from
Ah,
happening.
yeah, yeah.
And um yeah, yeah. But you sharing that story reminds me of just like people are my passion. So like, you know, I- like I'm sure working at Trader Joe's would be quite the experience for me.
I
I mean,
probably would.
I have tons of memories when my hair was longer of like people tapping me on the shoulder for the past decade, asking me where things are in Trader Joe's. And then I would turn around and I would have a baby in my cart. And they'll be like, "Oh,
Yeah,
I'm sorry." I'm like, I don't work here. I am with you.
because in all truth, what I'm most passionate about, I can do anywhere. I can do anywhere in any kind of however I put myself out there. It does not necessarily have to go through the channel of um, spiritual mentor or spiritual anything.
Absolutely. Well, I would say though, you're talking about a piece that I feel is probably awesome to touch on. And I think that's an embodiment piece.
Mm-hmm.
You're embodying you're embodying this way of being that has cultivated, throughout this lifetime, probably past lifetimes. And that embodiment piece, I think, is the gold.
Yep.
It's not about like retreat centers and all the things spiritual that you think that you should or shouldn't be doing. It's really about um embodying your soul and your true authentic self in every moment. And I think and that's where I'm coming to as well, of like less about achieving or creating to create resources and more about just being me and trusting that um if I'm in alignment with that, opportunities will present themselves for me
Yeah.
to put myself out there.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. And we
and
don't always know what that is. And that's
right,
why that question of, do you trust me? Comes into play for me because a lot of times, my ego wants to come up front and direct.
yeah, I really like that. I'm going to use that because I can use that right about now because I feel like this is so my two youngest daughters are in daycare right now for the first time in like a little over 8 years. And so I have time. And I practice yoga, I take baths, sometimes I take naps, but sometimes I go for hikes. But I mean I'm on like this sabbatical in a way, just to get right with myself.
Sure.
I
Absolutely.
I feel like I placed a lot of my identity into a certain way of being that has kind of dissolved. And yeah, with that being said, I feel I'm in the ashes, right? I'm kind of at ground zero. And so um it's exciting, but it's also yeah, it also feels probably terrifying, I would say, or just not even terrifying, but just like it feels overwhelming at times, heavy. Um, but
Being in the ashes kind of makes me think of the phoenix.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So
Eventually, it flies out of those ashes and it
yeah,
reappears.
yeah, totally,
Mhm.
totally. Yeah, I'm only 2 months since living here, so um looking forward to continuing to create relationships and with people and seeing
Yeah,
where, you
right.
know.
Kind of finding your footing in your new area.
Yep. I actually just got I'm actually just booked my first breathwork workshop in April
Oh,
uh,
nice.
at a holistic center. So I'm really excited to. I've shared breathwork before many times, but I'm really excited to share breathwork from this place of being that wants to come through. Um, I feel really good about it, and I feel really excited because they're gonna get a treat. They're going to get a treat in the sense of just how I feel pulled to share breath work and the importance of breath work as we move through these shifting times.
Mhm. Is that in your area, this the workshop that you're doing?
Yep, yep. It's at a place called Milluminate. Yeah,
What is it called?
it's called Milluminate. So think of like Milwaukee Mary's Illuminate.
Oh, nice,
Yeah.
nice. And do
So
you know if it's filled up?
I don't know. I don't even know if they put it. I don't know yet. I actually have to maybe. So it's kind of. So I reached out to a whole bunch of places, and this place reached out, but they're kind of doing all of that as far as putting it out there.
Okay.
Um, and I kind of shared. I gave them everything they needed to kind of put it out there, but I don't know um, if they even posted it yet. But I would imagine that they're going to be doing it soon because it's the first week of April.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So um,
I was
yeah,
just asking because if it was posted and you had a link, then I could put it, in the body of this video, but
you know what? I can look for that, and if I find it, I can get it
yeah,
back.
sure,
Yeah, I can look for that.
sure.
So
Chad, honestly, in that trusting piece, there's been times in my life in that trusting where if I felt like I needed to sleep 12 hours, I did.
yeah,
I
well, no,
trusted that
yeah,
energy
yeah,
so much. It's like if I need to rest, if I
yeah.
if I need to take 5 years and do that, then that's what I need to
Yeah,
do.
yeah. No, I thank you for saying that because I think that that's really powerful awareness, Irma, because that's what I've been learning to do, and it's been a really cool experience in the sense of like really softening my ego, right? Of just
Mhm.
oh, you should be doing this or you should be
Right.
doing, that, um and yeah, and so it's been good, just really um not do whatever I want to do, but do whatever that feels right for me in the moment. Um, and honoring that.
Mhm.
I think one of the things that when people are going through life transitions and grief and stuff, we don't give people opportunities or space to do that. And we just run right over it. And people kind of get lost in the darkness. And that's sad to see. There's a lot of people, suicide's pretty prevalent in our world. Like, you
And
know,
one thing can build on top of another, on
oh
top of
yeah,
another, on top of another. And that's
absolutely.
how illness happens.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yep, absolutely. And exactly. And if you're not tuned into who you are, your body, your emotions, um, your psyche, it can be very like, yeah, I mean, the breaking down of the psyche is no joke.
Yep.
It's no like not a picnic.
No, it is not.
It's not a picnic.
So I jotted down some things that you mentioned in this beautiful video, which I will put a link to that in the body of this, your video that you did on emerge into your authentic self. So something you mentioned in there is cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
Would you want to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I think when we're not living within our sense of when we are not living, in alignment with our authentic selves. Thank you.
Mhm.
Cognitive dissonance is going to always be there, and a lot of times we will not even realize it, and we'll just,
What does that feel like, cognitive dissonance?
um, So you just feel like, right? So your actions aren't in alignment with your soul, or your mind either, right? So like, so your mind is perceiving, this is all just, I'm sure there's probably like proper terminology for
Yeah.
this, but my personal experience of it is that like, um, when your actions aren't in alignment with your true self, with your soul, is a perfect recipe for cognitive dissonance. And I would say, unless you are an enlightened being, most people are walking around with that cognitive dissonance inside of them to a
Yeah.
certain degree, whether
Mhm.
they realize it or not. I mean, like, let's not forget that the world's set up perfectly to get dopamine hits to not make you feel cognitive dissonance. And you're
That's
on your
true.
phone, you buy stuff, you drink, you smoke, you have sex, whatever it is that you do. But it's this kind of like nagging, um, dis-ease, really, that you feel, um you know and I say dis-ease, but it can easily manifest itself into physical dis-eases, right, and psychological dis-eases. And I think the world is full of people who have cognitive dissonance right now.
Yeah.
And um
And you can never find peace while you're in that cognitive dissonance. And
you're in a fog. You're in a fog in a way, you're kind of just really disoriented and foggy. I feel I'm coming out of that fog. And it's disorienting, I mean,
and exhausting
yeah,
because
yeah,
I think our brains automatically want to make things make sense.
yep,
And so when it doesn't, when the soul is not aligned with thoughts, feelings, and actions, the brain is actually working overtime trying to make things make sense, and it will not give up.
yep,
And so
uh,
that creates an absolute exhaustion.
yep, absolutely, yeah. That's why Starbucks does so well.
Sure.
And
Yes.
let me get my mind right, even though coffee just stresses us out more, like,
Because Starbucks and the caffeine is in alignment with what the world says is the right thing.
right,
So
right,
there's a match there. So in order to get yourself to be okay with how the world is, you gotta jack yourself up. You gotta.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, listen, I mean, Irma, I feel like these times are beautiful and amazing, but they are as exhausting as fuck too.
Oh God, yes.
Like if you are doing like deep inner like psycho spiritual work, um you're in it. You are in it. And it's like I said in my video, it's meant for everybody, but not everybody's jumping on that ship.
Yeah.
And that's fine, but like, um you know it's energetic work, right? It's a full-time job. um it's something that doesn't get turned off. Like my wife sometimes be like, can you just not be so intense sometimes? I'm like listen, it's not about me being intense, but what I feel pulled to do on the planet as a soul requires 100% dedication and commitment to something that is, you know not in alignment with what the world perceives as
Just
like.
being an awakened soul on the planet. Take away the passion of what services and how you want to help others, even taking that away, just being an awakened soul walking this planet.
Yes, yes,
Oh my goodness.
yep, yep, 100%. Yeah, and I feel that what I'm learning during this time for myself, is to really, really tune into that. Kind of like what you said. If I have to nap for 5 years straight, I'm napping for 5 years straight. And there's beauty and power in that, because
There is.
that's really listening to what you need in any given moment. You know what I mean? Like, and there's no like hard like roadmap of like, this is what you got to do. Like I feel like it's so different for each individual
It is.
that you know, and that's the beauty of it too, is that we have so much to teach each other. You know, we can learn so much from each other. Um,
And the
and that's
more compassionate we can be for ourselves, the more compassionate we can be for others.
100%.
Hmm.
100%. Yeah, I mean, I feel that you're quite empathic. I feel I'm pretty empathic. So like you can hold space, right? You can hold space for other people when you see and know that they're hurting inside. You can feel it, you know?
Holding
Yeah.
space is a good term because I forget exactly this quote I have on my website that the soul doesn't want to be fixed or changed. It just wants to be witnessed.
Mm, yeah.
And I think that's true. And that just made me think that, your term holding space, that the soul doesn't need fixing.
Hmm. That's right. I mean that I think like right, exactly. I think um yeah, waking up to that fact, right? Like it's almost like you know, we're allowing these programs just to kind of dissolve while still like living within like the constructs of these programs.
Uh-huh. Yep.
And I think that's where the exhaustion piece comes because it's like you're deprogramming in like real time. Um and yeah, and yet like you're in a world that's reinforced with this very thing that you're deprogramming from. So it's like very disoriented. It can be. And I think that's why, meditation, prayer, getting out in nature, moving your body, just doing whatever you can do to kind of feel anchored and rooted.
Hmm. Which kind of opens up this part of our conversation to the importance of breath work and what that is, because I think that's absolutely key to everything we've been talking about.
Yeah. Actually, I'm actually writing an article called "Why Breath Work,"
Mhm.
and yeah, I think I don't know if you're asking a question, but breath work is the most amazing tool, uh, and it's just remembering like this lost, and not even lost, but there's so many people that use it. It's great. I mean, it just ties everything together. Breath is spirit. Breath is the one thing that we all have in common, all sentient beings. If you take away the oxygen, there's no life. It's like just as powerful as the sun. And I think about breath work as, it's the first thing that we do. We take a breath, we live our life, and then the last thing we do, we take a breath, and then we pass on. But nowhere in between is there any kind of education, really, like in
Mhm.
the mainstream. I mean, there's a
Mhm.
lot of people alternatively sharing breath work now, more out there in the open, but um, there's not a lot of people talking about the power of it, just in our everyday lives. And I think more and more people are waking up to that, which is beautiful and awesome. And it's just a good way to bring us all together, you know?
So how we find ourselves breathing on a daily basis, what could that teach us and show us?
Yeah. That's a great question. I feel like the number one thing is always just tuning in with your breath. Is your breath fast? Is it shallow?
Are you
Is it
holding your breath?
Yeah, is it deep? Is your breath only going to here?
Hmm.
I see it go to here all the time in my daughters. I try to get them down into their bellies, into their low part of their the base, their root. The breath is always speaking to us. You know, I was looking up pranayama, which is basically breath control, and that's the breath that's used in yoga.
Yeah.
And um, And that's great. That's powerful. But I would like to take it a step further during the times that we find ourselves in. And I'm a, regular practitioner of yoga, and I see it a lot in yoga practices, is still when people go to yoga, people are still holding their breath in yoga class.
Hmm.
And so um, I almost feel like the yoga needs to be like breath, like release, breath, surrender, breath, like letting go. Like there's instead of trying to control things, which I feel like we've been in this kind of construct for a while of just kind of controlling and being more warrior like, breathing and letting yourself surrender to what is. So in any given moment, you tune in with your breath, and your breath will kind of allow you to kind of scan your body and see where things are coming up. So for instance, lately for me, or maybe the past year or two, I've had a lot of tension in my solar plexus, and that's our power center. And I use the breath not to remove that energy, but to breathe into it and to feel into it and see what that's all about, and see what that wants to reveal itself to me. Because a lot of times when I'm feeling that, I'm usually, maybe it's a part of maybe cognitive dissonance manifesting in my body.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Bro, like you're not supposed to be doing this right now. You just need to like unwind and do something else and allow yourself to do something else.
Mhm.
Oh no, but I have to do this because my kids need to eat. Like,
Mhm.
whoa, they have a mom, she can make dinner tonight or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, and you can really use the breath just to tune into your field and where you're holding on the tightness. Maybe you're holding on to your throat, or your heart or something like that. And really just ask powerful questions to yourself of like what's coming up with that while using breath work.
Right. Yeah.
So my journey in with breath work, really one of the things that I wish to share with people moving forward is less about the modality of breath work that I've learned, but
Mhm.
more about the conscious awareness of your breath and how to awaken to that and never lose it.
Yeah.
And I mean, because the breath is one of the, it's so powerful. It can bring us into present moment awareness like that
Mhm. Right.
within 5 minutes.
Yep.
In 5 minutes, we can come into the moment. Or, they say, an emotion happens, they say 90 seconds to feel it. Come back to your breath, give yourself 90 seconds to feel the anger or upset, whatever. If you come back and connect your breath and you sit with whatever's coming up with you, you'll most likely watch that energy dissolve and move through you
So
without
what's the resistance?
without holding on to it.
What was that?
I said without holding on to it.
So
I
what's the resistance? Because I've been in conflict with this has happened a few times. Um, been in conflict with someone and they're kind of escalating, escalating. And in that escalating, they're not breathing.
Yeah, 100%.
And and so in these times that I'm thinking of, I would say, can you take a breath? Can we both just take a moment to take a breath? But they were in a resistance to taking that breath. What do you
Right.
think that resistance is about?
An
Not that
attack.
you know this particular person or people.
Yep. So I feel most likely that's their body reacting to some kind of attachment that they have and to a person or to a situation or circumstance. So they're so caught up in maybe a past memory. Maybe they're being triggered by something externally,
So
and
it
they're
could be trauma of some
yeah,
kind.
it could be trauma, and it's almost like a subconscious response to something. And so a lot of times too, right? Like subconscious, we're not aware of that. And so it may take people a while to kind of come back into their bodies from that. But as long as they're staying with the breath, they can allow that experience to happen without judging or distancing yourself from it, letting yourself experience it, and then still breathing with it. So allowing yourself to come back to earth, come back to your bodies and sit with it. And then you can maybe look at it from a perspective and be like, well, what was that all about? And start to maybe ask questions of
Sure.
was that? What happened there?
Because it's a real healing moment. It seemed like, these times I'm thinking of, it's like if that breath could have happened, it could have changed the outcome. I mean, it was a moment in time where if the breath would have been taken, so much could have come through.
Absolutely. Well, and that's, I mean, that's one thing that I like to share with people too, is that one of the number one ways to suppress your feelings, um, is to hold your breath,
Yep.
is to hold your breath. You
Yeah.
eat it. A person literally eats the energy that needs to be felt,
Mm.
experienced, and moved.
Yeah.
And
Where the flow can happen.
exactly,
Mhm.
becoming like the torus, right? So, which is the natural flow of the earth. And the torus is this flow. It's this
Mm.
flow right
Yeah.
here,
Yep.
right? And out and in, and you can
Yep.
go back the other way. So cosmos down to the earth, back to the earth, and so on. And just like we're kind of like this,
So
right?
it's circular in a way, but I always think of it as circular like this, but as you're doing this, could you explain that more?
Well, it's every way, right? So thinking like so breath work is a great way to excavate your field in regards to um basically unearthing blockages that are stuck inside of you. They can be from past lives, they can be from trauma, they can be from
Mm.
limiting beliefs, they can be from family systems. All these things that if we've never really allowed ourselves to experience them, which most likely we all have something because as a father, I know I traumatized my
Oh,
girls. I'm
sure.
I'm
No,
not
yeah.
perfect. So their little bodies and their little beings don't know how to process that. So they are already stored with some work to do.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and that's their journey. And but with that being said, as that stuff gets stored in our bodies over time, it creates dis-ease, it creates disconnection, it creates a body that sometimes is so full of blockages that you don't even want to live in this body.
Yep.
Oh, you want to be disembodied, so
Yep.
you want to eat all the candy in the world or drink or do whatever it is to not feel this body because it's so goddamn painful. And
Yeah.
your body is just one big charged emotion that needs to be integrated
Yeah.
on many, many, many different levels. And the breath work helps to start to unveil those things and help to move those things. Sometimes we'll know exactly what we're moving, and sometimes we don't need to know. And these cycles of integration are basically us. And this is a big part of becoming, stepping into your authentic self. As because as we do that, we start to reclaim lost aspects of our soul, and they
Yeah.
start to come back into alignment with who we are. And the more and more that we do that, the more and more aligned we are, the more and more in right action we are. We just become, we become rooted into who we are, uh, living from that authentic place.
So
And so,
would you say when a person does breath work, in your experience of working with people with your breath work, um, would you say that it's important to have also um, a support person for what comes up while doing breath work? Because wouldn't that be kind of hard to process
yes,
and integrate on your own?
100%.
Yeah.
Five sessions. 5 sessions. You need 5 sessions to be, I feel like they say 5 to 6, which that feels right. So 5 to 6 sessions to where you start to wake up to your breath pattern and where you need to go with your breath pattern. And to have facilitators that be there to hold space for you. And I have a coaching background too. So coaching is a
Yeah.
big part of it. To help people understand what it is that they just went through,
Mhm.
based on what they were experiencing. And I say about 5 sessions, and then you're able to really go out on your own, um, and use this self-healing modality in your everyday life. And sometimes it may be you going off and doing a proper breath session on a mat somewhere, but the breath work, it's kind of like yoga. It's like You practice yoga for 60 minutes, a day, but the main premise for yoga is to take yoga off your mat and embody the principles of yoga, and to live, the life of a yogi. Same with breath work. It's you want to be able to embody breath work as a way of just unfolding. It's a tool that helps you to stay in awareness with what's coming up for you in any given moment.
So, okay, so there's partly, it sounds like there's in those 5 to 6 sessions, there's partly training and coaching of how to use that as a tool moving forward. But I'm also wondering, just out of curiosity, if a person, say they really haven't done much inner work and then they come into a breath work session or they book 5 to 6 sessions with you, but they really haven't done psychological work, shadow work, different inner work. Could it be that it's like opening Pandora's box?
It can be. I think there's a lot of
Not
people
that I
out.
want to put fear into anybody.
Yeah, no, I mean it can't, because the thing is what you're doing is you're tapping into like subconscious trauma. And not just that, but that's initially what it's going to be, most likely.
Because
Trauma
there's
that's
probably good things, positive,
oh
um,
yeah.
you
Yeah,
know,
there's 100%. There's people who have mystical
yeah.
experiences. They have conversations with God. They have conversations with spirit, with their spirit guides. Absolutely. I mean, that's what you're working towards. You're working towards getting to a place of clarity within your vessel to where you can be more tied into spirit and
Yeah.
connected to spirit and to your guides.
Yeah.
And so the main premise of breath work is to get you to a place to be there, basically. But first we have to, you know, maybe unearth some of these traumas that have been running your life that you don't even realize have been running your life. And that can open up Pandora's box, but it can be in a very positive way too, because um that's what they're supposed to get.
Yeah, because what's the option if you don't open Pandora's box?
Well, they would, I mean, if they're coming to you for breath work or coming to a breath work session, their life isn't going 100% like hunky dory. Like it's like something they're seeking something,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or maybe they're just curious, but they're most likely seeking something, alignment, connection, um, a spiritual experience. But they're on the path. I feel like if you find breath work, you're on a path, of inquiry,
Yeah, yeah. It
waking.
just it just seems like such a beautiful um tool. It's like you are the facilitator of the breath work, but the actual healing is the breath itself.
100%, a
You
hundred
know?
percent. It
Yeah.
has, I mean, they teach you this, even not very much, but like they teach you a little bit about like transference, like when
Mm.
someone has a powerful breath session and then they look at you like you're the one that did it, and you're just like,
Yeah.
this has nothing to do with me,
Yeah.
and that's a place that you have to really come to this work from, is like, this isn't about me, you know. I'm a space holder. I'm a facilitator. I know how to handle situations when they arise. But I'm here for you, and this is a dialogue between you and your breath and spirit and God within you. You know,
Mm.
um,
Yeah.
so
That's been part of my hesitation in working with others is there does seem to be this desire to give one's power away. And I
yeah,
don't want anybody's power. I don't, you know.
Irma, I just got asked to become a facilitator back at Open Hand. So I was a
Oh
facilitator,
my.
then was not, but then again, just got asked to be a facilitator. And I feel I'm more ready now than ever before. But um, what is coming up for me is this energy of codependency.
Yeah.
Um, and and exactly what you were saying about like giving your power over, you know? So I feel like the realizations that I've come to in say in the past 5 months, codependency has been a big part of that and giving my power over. And so, I just shared, with open about how I'm working with that energy basically, and just that like I wouldn't be able to be fully there in that space as a facilitator because I still am working through some things. And I really feel that like if I were to become a facilitator through open hand again, that I would need to choose that time when it's right for me, when I feel really I'm coming from a place of like this is right for me, not from a place of unhealthy attachments or
Yeah.
codependency.
Or I need this, or I could use this to kind of lift
Exactly.
me up. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt really good, to share that in that way, and to, an older version of me would have grabbed onto that and
Sure.
just held on to the identity of it.
Yeah. What a great opportunity. Like this is the
Yeah, I mean,
opportunity.
I've already lived it, but I've lived it with like kind of like this half-hearted, like non-committal, more false version of myself.
Mm-hmm.
Now, now for me to truly do that work and be of service, I do feel pulled to do that work, and I'm actually going to an open hand retreat in Mexico in April.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
but I feel this time around when I go back to working with open hand, which I feel pulled to, I want it to be from a place of like authenticity and
Mm-hmm.
rightness.
And wholeness without attachment.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he knows that too. And
Mm-hmm.
I honor that because it's like, the email that I got back from him was like, well, if you feel pulled to down the road, just email me and we'll cross that bridge when that happens,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. So in that, if and when you were a facilitator in the open hand work, um, would that be facilitating breath work or facilitating? I don't know if open hand would say that he has teachings, but
no,
facilitating.
yeah, it would really just be facilitating the shift in consciousness that's happening.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. So, I mean, spiritual life coach, I would say, you know, uh, yeah, I know it's like, I feel like I want to do away with all the labels.
Yeah, I know. I
You know what I mean?
know.
I really do.
I
Uh,
know. One of my most favorite universal laws, and I don't know how many there actually are. I think over 100. Our society has focused on the universal law of attraction, because hey, that's who we are. Um, but one of my favorite universal laws, and there are many besides the law of attraction, is the law of allowing, universal law of allowing.
mm,
Yeah. And so many of the universal laws, if really looked into and applied, it's like having a guidebook that we don't really use in our society. We don't plug into. I mean, there's the universal law of one, the universal law of love. There's all these universal laws.
yeah, I mean, and I would say that open hand is probably in alignment with that. And so those, that's, you know, I remember him sharing on the last retreat I went to in Sedona, talking about how if he could, he'd offer this work for free.
Sure.
Um, and and that's probably why I've always resonated so deeply with his work because um, I feel that mission is in alignment with what I'm supposed to be here doing, you know, of just being of service in a way of like of just serving, payment is the joy of serving, you know, really, like I know we need resources to live in this 3D world, but like the payment that is received from people, you know, is just by like it's just being able to give, to serve basically. So like like seeing people unfold into their authentic selves is the payment. Watching them emerge is what keeps you going. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. And at the same time, our world uses money as a tool, and I think it's an energetic tool. Um, I don't know exactly how to align that or integrate that into my life necessarily, but it seems like there's something having to do with money, energy, and how our world uses that as a symbol or a tool. I'm not saying it's good or bad necessarily. I'm just saying there's something in that piece that I haven't come to peace yet with.
Yeah, I would say I'm in the same boat. I feel like, you know, yeah, uh, yeah, yeah. I can feel that because, you know, I feel a part of me. I want to serve and coach and work with people and do breath work with people, to serve and coach and do breath work with people. Like getting paid for it's like a bonus,
Well, sure,
you know?
sure.
So
But what do you do when you're a person such as myself? I honestly would give the store away. I would. I'd just give the store away.
yeah.
That's not the wisest approach to
Yeah.
life
That's why,
and
that's
even
why
a
you don't
health.
that's why you don't own a store, Irma.
That's true.
Uh, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think these are good questions to ask, and it's a breath of fresh air to realize that I'm not the only one that thinks these thoughts. But
Mhm.
I don't know.
Because in the giving, and I get that. I'm a giver. I'm a giver. But I think to kind of relate that to breath work and that circular thing, in the giving, there also has to be receiving
Absolutely.
for it to have it flow, to have it be
Yep.
circular. Yeah.
Yep. And I think that part of that journey is just, yeah, 100%. Because I've done breath work in my training and stuff for free. And I had people come to my house for an hour and a half session and they stayed for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's not fun. There's
Right.
nothing there's nothing fun about that.
Yeah.
So there definitely has to be an energy exchange, like monetarily for sure,
Yes.
to create accountability.
Balance.
Accountability, yes, balance, for sure.
Yeah.
Like, and to feed yourself, right? Like, obviously, in order for you to continue to do the work that you love to do, you need to be taken care of.
Mhm.
Um,
Maybe
so,
a good word to connect and maybe make peace with the money part is, in order to sustain myself to do what I am most passionate about and very skilled in order to sustain that, I do have to charge a fee.
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I actually, yeah, and I have, yeah, absolutely. I think I feel like I'm getting better at that, but that has come with me growing more confident in my being and my self-worth.
Yeah.
Like, I have a lot to offer people, and embodying that offering by, this is what I'm doing. This is what I charge. Like, that's what it is,
Sure.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, it's taken me a long time to come to that place, to get to that place of like really embodying that. Um, the confidence to be like, this is, and I think it's still growing inside of me, of just continuing to work with that, just to continue to play with that. And I think it could also too, Irma, there's maybe some poverty consciousness around that, like,
Mhm.
that needs to be worked through,
And
kind
to
of thing.
use an analogy, if you're, say, driving down the street and you see um, some things that a person has put out on the side of the street, and with a sign that says free, Well, you might not give as much worth to those things as you would to something else that had a price attached to it. I think there's a mm, worthiness, like how our world sees that and defines it. It seems like if something is free, they don't respect it or honor it as much.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And I noticed that. I mean, there's a lot of people who coach. Like I remember this one guy who is down in like Miami. God bless him, but does really well for breath work. He charges $600 a breath work session
sure. Yeah,
online,
yeah.
without even batting an eye.
Mhm. Sure. Yes. And
Like, I
people
don't
pay
know.
him
Like,
then.
I
Mhm.
mean, maybe I have a block inside of me. Maybe I need to be charging $600 a breath session. But I mean, he's obviously created. I'm sure he didn't start off at $600 an hour. But he's probably created, whatever, a worth or you know, the desire for people to come and pay that amount
Sure.
for
And
for
there's
them.
there's ways to work with that as well, $600 for a one-on-one session versus a more minimal fee for doing breath work with a group
Yeah,
where you can kind of,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
So what I see, I know I want to be conscious of your life flow. So is there anything you'd like to share before we close that you feel drawn to or pulled to sharing?
Um, Yeah, I mean the one thing that I would like to share, I think, is that the impetus for people to get right with themselves is at an all-time high. Like I feel like um I think we really have to learn how to tune in and really wake up to who we really are. I think the world needs that now more than ever. And I feel that that's what I'm passionate about and where I see my life flowing and just encourage other people to start this inner journey of waking up to who they truly are. And yeah, remembering their soul and their authentic self. Um, yeah. And I feel like that's like really what we're here to do anyway, and for whoever listens to this that resonates with that, I mean, just keep going, right? Just keep on the path. I mean, I think that, I've learned a lot from you, in regards to just keep on keeping on, really. And then we're not alone, we have each other
Right,
uh, to share with each other and to find like-minded people and to start connecting with those people
right.
is
And
important.
especially now with with the systems of stability that people came to rely on now dissolving
Exactly.
without something new being created yet. So we're in this kind of transition or transformation kind of place. And I think it's a point in time where a lot of souls are trying to make the decision, do I even want to stay here?
Yeah.
For real.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. I mean, it's, we're in a pressure cooker for sure. For sure. But the thing is like in talking with you, knowing my background, there are plenty of people out there like you and I who are here, ready to work with people, ready to be with people as a
Mhm.
coach, as a mentor, as a friend,
Yep.
um, whatever label you want to give it. And there's lots of people out there like us that are doing similar things, and there's beauty in that. But I feel like the more and more that we can sync up with each other and connect with each other and start to really create like ecosystems
Yeah.
outside of like this old system is the new way. It's
Yeah.
really the new way. And you know, we talked a lot about money and stuff, but in that new community, like money exists, but like a lot of times, in this community that I believe that's in my heart is we help each other out,
Sure.
We share gifts, tools, and awarenesses. And yeah, sometimes money is exchanged, but like in that world, we are literally just uh complementing each other, along our paths. And I think there's a lot of power in that, especially if we can um quiet the egos enough to have ourselves, like living from the heart and soul, you
Mhm.
know,
Because we really do live in a world of abundance.
100%.
But I always describe it, if we're trying to control and manipulate and hold on, that it's like, how much can we fit into this versus when we
Right.
do this, we actually realize we have everything.
Yeah.
Through that, knowing we have everything, there is that abundance fountain that springs up. And that's the place that we can share from our hearts and souls, and to move towards creating a world where maybe money won't always be in the forefront. Maybe it will be an exchange of services and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think this is part of paving, um, this is, creating a 5D earth while living here, so, and transitioning um our consciousness to kind of vibrate with the consciousness of the earth.
Mhm.
The earth doesn't care about how much money you have in the bank or how many YouTube hits you have.
Right.
It really doesn't.
So in a
Uh,
way, it is kind of like a world unfolding instead of maybe religious beliefs that, we come here as sinners and we have to go through this whole process of whatever to get to the golden streets of heaven. Um, to through people like yourself, people like myself, um, people like Open Hand, many, many people, um, paving a path of bringing heaven to earth.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yep. I mean, really, yeah, exactly. Like, why wait until you die?
Hmm.
Why wait till you die?
Yeah.
Um, exactly. I mean, and that's what we're here to do, or embody. Maybe not necessarily do, but embody, I feel like is a better word,
It is. It
you
is.
know?
Because that's really, and that's a big part of breath work as well, is that
Yeah,
embodiment.
absolutely. That's the first piece is to get people into their bodies and be more conscious and aware of their bodies.
Yeah.
100%.
Because I don't know if maybe I didn't take things in the right way, but it seems like a lot of hmm, spiritual hmm, conversations or principles sometimes seem like it's about transcendence and escaping the body.
Yep. Yeah, and I think there's a lot of people talking about that for sure. There's a lot that, you know, there are people out there that do this and then root.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more people that just do this. And then what happens is when people come back to their bodies, they're quite fragmented and disembodied.
Yeah.
And then, or they're constantly seeking that, these higher dimensions and stuff, which isn't really, you're not really, it's not even sustainable because you're not anchoring them through your vessel into the earth,
Mhm.
you know?
And that's that integration piece.
100%. Absolutely.
Hmm.
I think to be truly and fully embodied and awake to who you truly are, um, it's a feeling that like you can't really talk about it because it's a feeling that's probably unique for each individual, but it's a feeling that like um, you just know, or when you're even getting closer to that, you're getting closer to that embodiment piece. Um,
And that's so important. I mean, can you imagine? And I know that there are people that this happens to. Um, they live their whole lives and maybe they get up to their deathbed and on their last breath they realize I never was here.
100%. 100%. I I literally was just talking to my wife and I was like, we were talking, I mean, I can leave you with this, but we were talking about deep, intimate relationships and I looked at her and I was like, have we really been intimate with one another? And I don't mean sexually.
Yeah. Hmm.
She's like, I don't really know. She says, I don't know. And then I said to myself, I said, and then to her, I was like, how did we last this long?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and I'm one of many stories.
For sure. No
Uh,
doubt.
Um, and and we learn and grow so much, and as you know, in intimate relationships, and you learn a lot about yourself and who you are, and you learn a lot about your shadows and your
Yes.
weaknesses and things like that. So, um, yeah,
And I could talk to you forever, as you know. In that intimate, have we been intimate with each other? Isn't part of that how intimate have you been with your own self?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But and I think that that's kind of this whole journey, right? Like, emerge into your authentic self. It's just the year 2024, but like it takes years to unfold into that, I feel like, and
Oh, yeah.
I feel like, with what with what you just said, right? Like, um, you wake up to yourself in relationship, right? Unless you already have yourself figured out, but that's not many people. There's not many people that are just dialed in. Like we all have shit to work through.
Oh, absolutely. But it
So
can sometimes seem like, oh, this has to do with the other person, but usually it never does.
yeah. No, well, absolutely. I feel, yeah, I mean, like, being into, I think the journey has been me learning how to become intimate with myself,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
And less seeking the other for the intimacy. But with that being said, though, we all have needs,
Well, it takes two to tango. Yes.
we have needs, we have certain desires, you know what I
Yes.
mean? Like, not that we need the other person to fulfill those desires, but like, like,
Well, part of intimacy with oneself would be to say the need to be truly seen by another.
yeah, and as your authentic self.
Yes. Yes.
So the more, that's the thing, this is what I want to share with you and
Okay.
just in general, is the more and more that we like emerge into our authentic selves, we have to be willing and ready to lose it all,
Yep.
because that's really what it takes. Not saying that you have to lose it all, but you have to be really and real willing and ready to lose it all, whatever all that is in your mind.
Yep.
Relationships, where you live, work, children, you name it, everything.
And
Or,
sometimes you might lose, maybe not it all, but you might lose what appears like loss. You might lose some people, some relationships, some positions, whatever. That might happen.
yep, exactly. And I feel like what keeps people stuck for so long is that fear of losing whatever it is. Work, vocation, same thing, spouse, living arrangement, whatever, safety,
Yep.
um, attachments, uh, fear of being alone. all these things. So,
Yeah.
and yeah,
And so where's the place to start? Exactly where you're at.
exactly. 100%.
Yeah.
Learning how to just learn how to become the objective observer of your life. I like to use ontological coaching. How am I observing my life? How am I perceiving my life? What's going on, with everything, my kids, my wife, my social life, whatever.
And that can be kind of like a ball of yarn that's been kind of all tangled together and finding where is that end piece and starting to
Yeah.
pull
Yeah.
away at it till it becomes less and less dense.
Yeah. That's a great analogy, actually. I like that.
Yeah.
That's a great analogy for sure. Because I think of that ball of yarn of being like a knot of energy in, say, one of your energy centers, right? One of your chakras,
Yeah.
and within a lot of these blockages is, you name it, programming, conditioning, trauma, family
Mhm.
stuff.
And as you start to, pull at that yarn and it starts to disentangle and become less and less dense, and you keep working at that, you keep pulling and keep, uncovering and pulling till there's no more yarn. To me, that's self-realization.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And liberation and whatever other terms you want to give it. That's freedom.
Yep. A
Mhm.
100%.
And we can do that. We can do that in our human journey, and we can begin exactly where we're at.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I mean, that's what I went to a psychologist when I was back in Illinois. It's an old Indian lady, and she was so sweet. And we had several conversations together. But one of the things that really stuck with me, because I was talking to her about my relationship with my wife at the time. I think I only had one kid or two, maybe two kids, maybe one and one on the way. Um, but she was like, well, she's like, what you are, I was like, first of all, I was like, I don't care what people think. And she's like, that's not true. Cause I did. I really do
Yeah.
care. She called me out, but was that she goes, you're passionate about the journey of self-realization. And I was like, yeah, you're right, I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that journey of self-realization it's for everybody, but you know, not everybody consciously chooses to really live that way in
That's
this.
true. And there's no judgment on that. We don't know why that is.
100%. I mean, if I believe in, you know, people living many, many lives. I mean, I think some souls are just, they have no interest in that at all. And that's great. That's great. There's
That's
nothing
right.
wrong with that.
That's
There is nothing
right.
wrong with that. I can love and appreciate people. Like, I don't feel like this desire to like wake up people who are not meant to wake up to who
That's
they are.
right. Yes, that would be forcing.
Yeah. So
So, in
thank you.
closing, Chad, you have something beautiful tattooed, I believe, on one of your arms. Do you know which tattoo I'm talking about?
Yeah, probably the one from Gospel of Thomas.
I think so. Would you mind closing with that?
Yeah, I'll close with that. It's a great quote. If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. And that's from the Gospel of Thomas, which they say the Gospel of Thomas is not in the Bible, and they were direct sayings of Jesus. So not, perspectives of the way Jesus was, but actual words from Jesus. But that quote to me, I feel like is what I want to help people with, is to bring forth whatever gifts, awarenesses, or uniquenesses that they need or want to bring through in the world. That's just yearning to come through.
And that will set you free. Is
That
that?
was that exactly. That will save them. It will set them free. So to get them on a journey of creating a more authentic life.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Uh, and you just be more in alignment with who you are.
Yeah.
you know.
I think that that really sums up the work that you're doing and the services that you're bringing towards other people and
Thank you.
helping them do
That is where my heart's at. My heart is and I feel like that's where my heart is for myself too. You know, I
that.
want the same thing for others that I want for myself too,
Mhm.
you know. But I feel like part of my offering to people is to help people unearth whatever that is for them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Well, thank you, Chad. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for sharing this time with me. There's so much that was shared in this conversation. I so appreciate you and what you shared.
Thank you so much. Thanks for it's good to see you. And thanks for having me on. It's as always, it's a very flowing and easy conversation with you, Irma. So thank you.
Thank you. And let's stay in touch, Chad.
Absolutely.
All right. You're not that far away anymore.
No, no, I'll be down. I'll be down and we'll have to maybe go. What was that place that we will have to go get some lunch or something? We went to that place in like where did we go in LaGrange? Was it LaGrange Park?
We'll figure out a nice place to meet up.
Okay. Sounds good, Irma. Thank you.
Say hello to your wife and your little girls.